Well, let me ask you guys at least one of the questions that we had discussed before the show, and it was about a little bit around inspiration. Um, if you're headed out in a particular direction, not necessarily to a specific location, but a direction, and are you are you already feeling inspired for certain types of photography, or are you more a reactive photographer for when you get out of the car and start walking around? Do you sort of is that where you start to build some of your inspiration is in the moment, or does that happen beforehand?
I don't think there's a one single answer to that. Sometimes I will feel inspired leaving the house and I can't get to that wait to get to the canyon with these gorgeous cottonwoods or the light or whatever is happening and I already am, jazzed. But a lot of times it's just going out there with no expectations, no preconceptions and just see what happens. And it's not just the experience, not just the physical sensory experience of what you see. It depends on what else is happening in your life. If you're leaving home and you're, I don't know, not feeling well or feeling great or whatever it is, that's going to influence how you will feel when you get there. But the point is, when you get there, just let go of these preconceptions, those expectations. Just be mindful, just be present, and hopefully that would help your inspiration because you can really, when you're mindful, you push all these other things out of your mind and you're completely focused on your experience in real time. And sometimes inspiration comes and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you have it when you leave the house, sometimes it's not. So I don't think there is one answer for every situation.
Not at all.
What are your thoughts, Michael?
Pretty similar. I mean, I'm always pre-inspired. Being outside away from my own roof is just the inspiration I need. So I just love being outside. I don't really care where it is. I'm motivated to walk and I'm motivated to find images, but they may not find their way to my camera. And it's like we said earlier, it's still okay. So I never have any preconceived ideas other than I'll put myself into certain habitats to be around certain plants or something like that, certain geology. But aside from that, I never go out with any sort of plan. It's just I'm excited to be there. I walk and I try and be slow and mindful. And if the images find their way to my camera, it's wonderful. But
Yeah, I
that
would say
doesn't
there.
always happen.
To me, there's maybe a very minor exception to that is sometimes I will find something that I know I really want to photograph, but the conditions at that exact time are not perfect. And then maybe some other day I would realize the conditions for that one photo are perfect today. And so I will just go and get it. But so it's pretty much continuing, picking up where I left off. But that's about the only time that I would leave the house with some expectation.
Hmm.
We have John here between the four of us, certainly over 100 years. I mean, hell,
Easily.
but I bet there's 120 to 150 years of photography and or leading and teaching photography. And due to a lot of factors, we are all, we kind of circle as, Matheny did this record, First Circle. Well, we've all kind of come around in the circle and we're almost back to being hobbyists again. And it's kind of cool. It really is. It's kind of neat to know that, I don't have to run 25 events a year and I don't have to run one, and I go out just like our attendees and not care about, you know, the almighty dollar here. And
Well, even beyond that, Jack, I think I'll
it's
add to that to
cathartic.
say that we've sort of transcended or moved past. I think we all went through certain phases of, hey, I need to do this. I need to publish this. I need to do this, business wise, just to make our photographs work. But now we're sort of at this point where it doesn't matter. Our photographs don't matter as much. We don't need magazine covers because this market is so saturated. Is that we oftentimes just shoot for ourselves,
Mhm.
But
and
I'll just,
that's we're getting back to that basic hobbyist mentality of why I shoot.
It's
Mhm.
not
well,
just
see, I mean,
business, a lot of it's ego too.
Well, that too, but I mean, for me, I guess I'm fairly proud and vindicated to say this now. When I decided to quit my corporate job and to become a full-time photographer, I deliberately wanted to go into business, earning a living in teaching and writing, and not from selling photographs, because I did not want to have to rely on getting certain kind of photograph that would sell or certain photographs that I didn't necessarily want to make. So it would free me to take the kind of photographs that I wanted. So I didn't want to hang my income on productivity, on photographic productivity. And at the time, there weren't that many people teaching workshops. There wasn't a lot of writing in the vein that I've done. So it was a good niche for me to say, well, I could earn a living doing that and be quote unquote professional photographer. And the funny thing is, before making that jump, I spoke with several professional photographers at the time, and they all told me that's not going to work. They all said, photographers don't buy other photographers' books or works, and today photographers are almost exclusively who buys other
Yeah,
photographers' work.
Mhm.
yeah.
So
I think
It's
I think that was always like that. I mean, you know,
well, I mean, there was a time when you could make really good money on stock photography, and then yeah,
I think photography education has completely supplanted, photography sales. So it's become a viable method, and I've watched my numbers just radically transform over my career from, where print sales were probably half of my income in the beginning, and then they just went like this, like everybody else. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
and I'll tell you what, there's
yeah,
people teaching photo workshops. I see there were this fall there were 8 photo workshops going on in the Smokies the same week. Ironically, none of them were for anybody local because we all know the
yeah.
traffic's so bad. Nobody's good. But I knew 3 or 4 of them, but there were 3 or 4 of them. I never heard of these people. And I looked them up and I see their bio. I've been doing this 30 years and all this baloney. And I mean, I know who they are. I never heard of them, but they're coming out of the woodwork because prints are gone, stock is gone. How
Yeah.
else do you make a living other than education? And
Yeah.
that's changing radically as we speak. You
Yep.
know,
but
Yep.
it's interesting that you said education, though, because the nature of what a photography workshop is has also changed. Today, people,
Yeah.
it's a guided tour is considered a workshop. It used to
correct.
be that
Right.
workshops were learning experiences. You would go to be taught things, to learn skills, not necessarily to make photographs. Now it's about hitting locations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really interesting to read about workshops from 40 to 50 years ago, right? Where they mostly spent their time inside looking at the prints of the master and
Yeah,
discussing the content of those prints and the making of those prints. And now it's moved almost entirely outside. And now
Yeah.
it's destination photography now. So
it is.
yeah,
Well,
It
guy
is.
said that dreaded
yeah,
word. It's a tour.
yeah, yeah,
Yep.
Yeah,
yep,
yeah, it largely
yep,
is, and that's
yep,
just kind of the reality of it. But
yeah,
we had
yep,
kind of touched on one question before we started recording, and the question is really, what is a good reason to pursue photography? I mean, we've kind of just said, education, financially, we'll kind of put that aside because a lot of our listeners are hobbyists, but what is that good reason? Why do we still pursue photography?
Well, that's actually something that I tackle in my recent book. Is I think the key is not to treat photography as a compartmentalized activity like a hobby or something that you just do on the side. I think you need to go back and take account of your life. What makes my life meaningful, and then figure out how can photography contribute to that. How can photography make my life meaningful, right? If it's a creative activity, if it's the process, if it's something that's rewarding for you to do, and in certain places, working with certain subjects, or whatever else that rewards you, if you're like in photo competitions. So just list the things that are rewarding to you in photography, and those are the reasons to pursue it. I mean, for me, photography as a distraction from life is not a great way to think about photography or anything else. But photography as a component is something that adds meaning to your life. Then figure out the ways that photography can do that for you and make your life as a whole better.
Mhm. I think that's great,
I
Michael.
had a recent um, one-on-one workshop in the Smokies, and the person that I was with asked me, what is it that turns you on about photography? Is it getting a great print you could put on your wall or whatever? And that was a great question. And my answer was when I drive around wherever I am, I may go to a place that I know or I see something that, I want to stop and look into more. And if I see something there that might be worth trying to make a photograph of, I look around and I say, what is it that I want to say here? I could go on, I'm going to be short. And then after I go through that whole process, and that could be a minute or it could be a half an hour or longer. Then I go, okay, how am I going to do this? Well, what should I use this lens and this? I don't do all the time. And once I accomplish what I set out to do, what story I set, when that shutter goes down, to me, it's over. I get off on kind of the challenge of putting the puzzle together just
Mhm.
for myself.
Yeah,
Michael,
I
how
think
about
that the
you?
experience.
Does that make sense? What about you guys?
I think what you're describing is that experience of flow, which I keep describing, and it's very much related to the experiences that you get from meditation and from mindfulness. And what happens is you focus all your attention on something that is rewarding to you. And when you do that, there's not enough attention left in your mind to worry about things that happened before or hasn't happened yet. You're completely present, completely focused on something that is important and meaningful to you. And like you said, when the shutter click, it's almost like you just wake up from a dream. You just didn't realize that the time has passed, that you were so engaged in what you were doing. And those are
Sure.
some of the most rewarding experiences that there are in life. So I would very much urge people to learn about flow and to pursue these attitudes and the modes of work that would be conducive to it.
How do you do that, Guy?
Well, it starts with attitude. It's and that's if you've ever practiced meditation or mindfulness, that the key to meditation and mindfulness is to train yourself to control attention consciously, to prevent attentions from drifting, from things to just bubble up in your head and distract you from what you're doing. It's to be able to corral all of your attention, all your conscious cognitive resources, and focus them on just one thing. And when you do that, you get into that zone, that zone of flow where you just lose track, you lose context. It's your entire world is just doing that thing that you're doing, and it's an incredible experience. And when it's over, you
Yep.
just realize you don't even realize that time had passed because you were so engaged. Uh, and yeah, it's difficult to do, and you have to train it. I would recommend to anyone to read that book, Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. He's the one that discovered that effect and promoted it, and he explains in that book, he interviewed people from all kinds of walks of life, from factory workers to surgeons to mountain climbers, and all of them find flow in their own way in what they're doing by coming up, but by evolving that capacity to focus attention at will on a specific task without being distracted. And we have so many distractions now that our attention is spread so thin that we never get to that point where we just get that highest value from our experiences.
Could you repeat the name of the book and who wrote it?
The book is Flow, Flow. That's a simple title. The author is much harder to pronounce. It's spelled Mihaly. His last
And that
name, I
would be
hope.
enough.
Yeah, that would probably be
That,
enough to find the
yeah.
book. Yeah, his last
Yeah.
name is Csikszentmihalyi. It's Ccszinnen. I'm losing
It's all
track.
messed up.
Yeah,
It's difficult
I'll
to
find
spell.
it. I'll
It's
find it and put a link on the
Too
website.
many
Yeah,
And
it's a great
consonants.
book, and
Yeah.
actually he developed this book into a series of books. That was the original book that where he talks about that effect of flow, and it's a spectacular book. But he has several other books that are related to it.
Michael, what were your thoughts on that question of what is a good reason to pursue photography?
It's Guy's always so eloquent. It's
I
hard for me
know,
to say anything that would
I
be
know.
better adding to, but um I wish he had all been at the Moab Photo Symposium this year in September. I basically, we when we present at the Moab Photo Symposium, we're given pretty free license to take our presentations wherever we want. So I kind of took an accounting of my career and how I got to where I am. And I mean, I've known this all along, but I had never really expressed it as such in writing or anywhere else. But my background, I'm a naturalist, and so I've always been a hiker and a mountaineer and a person in love with nature and being outside, and the camera was just an accessory that accompanied me on all those endeavors and, collecting photographs along the way. And I don't know, for the first decade, I never even considered photography as a career option or anything. I was just enjoying being a hobbyist photographer, making photographs of places that I love to be in and of things that I found fascinating. Um, and so for me, that's good. That's good enough. I just go walking in nature, which is what I've always done. And the camera is always with me. And when the photographs are there, I make them. But it's not a photographic trip looking for a hike. They're basically hiking trips or walking trips looking for photographs. So that's kind of how I've always conducted my life. So like when I go off on trips, it's easy to consider them photographic trips because that's what I hope to come home with is, a good frame or two that I can hang on the wall. But ultimately, I'm going for the experiences, which I know will result in at least one photograph. So not as beautifully expressed as Guy, but that's, yeah. So for my recommendation for, and I know everybody's life circumstances are different. And people have busy lives and families and, career commitments. So they get to squeak things out on the weekend. But like Guy said, I've orchestrated my life around what I want to do, which is spend my time outside. And it's great that, I happen to, and to the photographic end, I've considered this for I don't know how long, and I really can't tell you why I am driven to make photographs. I don't have an answer, but the drive has never stopped, and I felt like I've never had a slump. I'm just always eager and energized to make photographs, but I can't explain what the motivation
Michael,
is.
I'll tell you
Yeah,
I,
why.
yeah.
I'll tell you why.
I think it's a problem. It's a problem solving thing for
No, I
me.
think it
Yeah,
has to do with the need to create. And I think if you were a pianist, you would be driven to be a great pianist. And if you were
probably.
a writer, a great writer, or a
Yeah,
great cook, you'd be
yeah.
obsessed with cooking.
Well,
Uh,
and I am obsessed with cooking, so
I
I
think
think this.
the need to create
Yeah,
is something that a lot of people have,
yeah,
and they never let it out.
yeah.
now I've had a need early on. I can remember back in junior high school or middle school, as I know today, but I had this yearning to express myself, and I did not have a way. I didn't know how to do it and how to get this stuff out. And and it wasn't until I really got into photography that I finally started to find this outlet for getting, I don't even know what, out of me. Just I wanted to touch people. I wanted to say things. I wanted to convey experiences. I wanted to show the beauty of the world and all of
Hmm.
these things I wanted to do. And it was just bottled up inside of me until I found photography. And for me, that's one of the big things that keeps me going all the time is I always have things to say and
Yeah,
feelings I want to convey. And I want to touch people. I want to make this a beautiful, beautiful world. And I think visual art is one of the ways to do that. And so I
absolutely.
actually spent some time several years ago just writing down, trying to answer that question, what motivates me to photograph. And I've worked with a few clients doing the same thing of just do some self-examination. Why do you
Yeah,
do it?
yep,
Is it because I like the gear? I like the travel. I need to be a creator. I need to express myself. And plus, being a nature and landscape person, right, to kind of to your point, Guy, where we get to go to these beautiful places, it's such a restorative and potentially spiritual experience. I mean,
yep,
that's talk about life enrichment. I mean, oh my
Yeah.
yeah,
gosh.
Yeah, and I agree completely with Michael. I mean, it's about my own motivation, and I just want to
Yeah,
qualify that it's perfectly fine for different people to have different motivations to do
for
things.
sure.
But the
For
way that
sure.
I characterized it in one of my books is there are people that go out to natural places to do things in them, and there are people that go to natural places to be in them. And for me, the to be there is always the number one, by far more important thing than what I'm going to do there. Just first of all, put myself out there. I just want to be there, to experience the place. What happens after that, what I do there, photograph, hike, climb, look at birds, whatever it is, that's all secondary. I want to get there, I want to be there, and when I'm there, I'm just transformed. Immediately, all the other distractions in my life just disappear, and I can just be completely present in a place that I'm comfortable and is beautiful to me. And I end up doing things, but I don't go there specifically intending to do things.
No, but I think kind of wrapping some of this stuff up for listeners is that I think if folks could spend some time giving some examination to why they photograph, it might enrich their own experience and enrich their own art and creation process even more. When you understand what's driving you, why do I do this?
Yep.
Then you can lean into that and really embrace what it is and go for it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But I would say you should be very careful when you do that, not to fall into rationalizations where you go into it thinking this is what I want and find a way to explain how that works. But just start from nothing, don't try to rationalize why you do that. But just like I said, for me, I go out there, not intending to express any great meaningful things about the world. I go out there because it's a meaningful experience to me. And what happens after that, it kind of depends on what I experience, what I see, what I feel when I'm there. Uh, yeah, but to each their own, and it's perfectly fine if my way doesn't work for other people, and it's perfectly fine that other people like to do things their own way. I look at people that do street photography, for example. There is no no force in the world. There is no possible way that I could ever enjoy doing street photography because being on a city street is an unpleasant experience for me. But of course, for some people, it's very energizing. It's very stimulating.
For
Uh,
some people,
so
being where you go is scary.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
no doubt, no doubt
It's
about
too
it. So that's what I'm
quiet.
saying don't go in with the preconception saying, well, I'm a street
Yeah.
photographer, so I'm going to make up a story about how much I love the
Again,
city. It's
these
like,
are
no, go figure
labels.
out what it really, yeah.
We like to label everything. Like
Right.
and the other thing I would say before we get in this is, don't go by the book flow and read it and finish the last page and go, okay, now I'm better. This is an educational process, and
Mhm.
it may take a year or two or more. But
Absolutely.
if you don't work on it, you don't work on looking at your own, evaluating yourself is really hard.
And
Absolutely.
it's
It's
scary. A
really
lot of people
hard.
don't want to do
It's
it.
scary.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Absolutely.
and I would recommend the Be Extraordinary book, guy's latest book, man.
oh, thank you.
It's if you walked into my music room,
Yeah.
I have my recliner here, I got my wall of records, I got my audio equipment, and I got this little table right next to my recliner. And I'm not making this up. I could walk right in there now. Top is that book, and I've read it twice.
Thank
It's
you,
a
Jack.
different it's a different book than you've done in the past.
It is, yeah.
Yep.
Very
It-
different, and
and-
there's a lot in there.
Jack, call it your Geibel. It's your Geibel.
Well, it's one of them. It really is. I mean, I've read a number of Galen's books numerous times. It's very inspirational, and
Yep.
but don't expect these changes to happen
yeah.
if you want to make them, and maybe you don't. That's okay too. But
Yeah.
just
Jack,
life
I
is
want to
so
say
short.
something.
As you
Yeah,
get
you
older,
mentioned you mentioned labels, Jack. I want to say a few things about that. Is if a lot of people start with the label, I want to be a landscape photographer, a nature photographer, an artist, or whatever it is, and that's I don't think it's a great way to start. And I have a pretty deep interest in philosophy, and one of the difference in philosophies of ethics is there's some philosophers that preach being and some philosophers that preach becoming. Uh, so when it comes to being, is you pretty much decide on something that you want to be. So being involves becoming. So let's say I want to be a great nature photographer, and you have a concept of what that is, and you strive to be that thing, and then with the assumption that once you get to that point, you're going to stop becoming. You become that thing, and you're done. And philosophers that practice becoming say, you're never done. You're constantly becoming. You're constantly learning new things. You're constantly adapting. You're constantly discovering new things about yourself and about the world. You never stop becoming. You just keep going and going and going and constantly adapt and adjust to what you learn and what you know, what you experience about yourself and about the world. And I'm definitely in that becoming camp, and that's part of why I like the philosophy of Nietzsche, because that was part of his because you're never done. You don't say, well, I became what I wanted to be and I'm done, and I'm just going to stay there and rest on my laurels, and I'm a great nature photographer, I'm a great whatever. That's it, I'm done. uh, yeah, so you constantly become. So if you start with a label and you want to get to the point where you say, okay, I achieved that label, well, now what? You just stay there forever, and some people do. But other people, it's like, no, I mean, I've learned a lot of new things. I've had a lot of new experience. I've matured. I've better resources, better equipment, more knowledge, more understanding, keep becoming, keep making yourself better.
John, I know we've gone a long period here, and I don't know, maybe we might end up splitting this into two podcasts. I have no idea. I've got one last question. Don't get mad at me. And I'm going to ask Michael first, then I'll ask Guy. Michael, if you could have lived during any period of photography that historically that we're aware of, when would you have wanted to live?
Hmm.
or
That's
or,
a,
or something you would love to have done that you didn't get to do or you'd like to do in the future?
well, without spending too much time thinking about it, and because so many greats in the past did it, it would be cool to go and sit with Stieglitz. Um, in New York City of all places, because I think New York looked cool back then. I think all cities looked cool, right? And people had good style, and um, that's the or go hang out with Jackson or the early pioneers in the West on the geological surveys. That would be
Hmm.
cool too, because then you'd be the first. Um, so yeah, maybe one of those. But it seems like sitting with Stieglitz because everybody great that we like did it.
Yep,
I should do it too,
that's a
you
great
know.
answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Guy?
It's kind of along the same lines. I was thinking of there's a famous he's not famous today, but if you've researched him, you'll find him named John Hillers, and he was a photographer on the Powell expedition. So they were some of the first to see some of the views that I
Wow.
now photograph, some of the places that I
Imagine
now
that.
live in.
Yeah.
Yeah, before there were any other white people here, before there was any urbanization or any roads or anything, some of the first to go down some of those
That's a
rivers,
great
some of the
answer.
first to see some of those views, to actually discover these places for the first time, not even knowing that
Yep.
they would find them. I
Yep.
would think that would be a pretty amazing experience.
John, how
But
about you?
I don't have a good answer, Jack. I've been sitting here listening to these two great men talk about it, and I honestly don't have a good answer. Yeah, sitting with some of the greats would be wonderful. And then my mind went to there were periods of time that I would like to have lived to capture some stuff, like the Art Deco periods.
Yeah.
As Michael said, New York at one point was a beautiful city to capture and think about. The opening up of the West in terms of a landscape and nature perspective. I mean, there's so many magical times to think back upon. I don't have one that's preferred.
I
Actually, if,
have
if we're
two.
gonna go that far, I wouldn't mind seeing the Jurassic, and
Well, there you
maybe
go.
the North American continent at the end of the
So, so,
Pleistocene
so
before
I,
Yeah,
I've
humans
got
arrived here. I bet that was pretty gorgeous.
yeah.
I've got two, and one has nothing to do with photography. The first is I would have loved to been, and this actually did happen. I would love to have been in the bar or at the dinner where uh, Gustav Mahler, Einstein, Freud, up, what's his name, the philosopher,
Nietzsche, Schopenhauer.
Nietzsche was. I mean, these all guys, they all hung out, man. Can you imagine sitting at a table with those guys? They're just listening to what the discussion was. It would have been fascinating.
Actually,
Yeah.
from what I understand, some of them were not very pleasant people to be
Yeah,
around.
yeah, but it still would have been cool to be there. And then the other thing, I would have loved to have been in the club when Charlie Parker was on the bandstand and Igor Stravinsky walked in,
Uh,
and Bird saw because he studied Stravinsky, and when he saw him walk in, he was playing some tune, and he quoted the Stravinsky's Petrushka quote, and it was, and they I would love to have sat at that table to hear Charlie
uh,
Parker
yeah.
talking to Igor Stravinsky.
I would love
Okay,
to be in
enough
the
of this.
audience when Beethoven conducted his ninth for the first time. That was incredible.
Yeah,
He didn't
Just to,
actually do the conducting. They just made it look like he did. There was a
yeah,
real conductor kind
yeah,
of hidden
yeah,
because he was deaf, but
yeah.
Guys, this is only a couple of weeks off. You get the VR headset, you tell the prompter what to do,
we're
and
there.
you're
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
But listen, just kind of step back and reflect on everything that we've just said. It's about experiences.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's as we've talked about numerous times. That's what life is full of. And that's
Yeah,
what we
and,
should value more so
yeah,
than,
Michael mentioned Harry Callahan earlier, and then one of my favorite sayings from Harry Callahan is he said, "I wish people thought of photography as an adventure, same as life is an adventure. It's just go out there and
Yeah.
live. It's all about the experience. Life is an experience. Make photography part of that experience." So,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. It's
And
not
you
the
know, you
print.
get up in the morning, you never know. So enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, that's a
Yep.
that's a great, great way to end, I think, Jack.
Yep. Yep. Well, I guess I don't know if we're going to do this in one big felt swoop. I'll leave that up to the executive producer, Mr. Pedersen. We're just the talent guys.
Yeah.
John's the brains behind
The
this.
committee will have to decide.
Yes.
The other
Yeah.
thing that a lot of people would have loved to been around was sitting in Murphy's Motel till 2 o'clock in the morning. Just Ty and I with a little bit of that brown liquid going on and
Yeah.
talking about life. It was an amazing. That
Is
was
that
one of the highlights of my career. It really was. It was
film developer? Is that what you meant by brown
no, yeah,
liquid?
it probably would
Yeah.
have worked. It
yeah,
would have worked, but that
just to
was
clarify, it was Jack Daniels. Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
anyhow, guys, thank you all for being here. And again, we always say this every time we do a podcast together. It's been too long, but we should, maybe once every 6 months, bring you guys back and talk about stuff other than F8 and be there.
Yeah, happy to. Yeah.
There's more
Yeah,
to
well,
that.
thank you, Jack and John, for the invite. And this
Thank you.
little addendum here at the end. But Jack, you mentioned Matheny earlier, and I'm going to see Matheny at the Walt Disney Concert Hall next May.
Yeah,
Uh,
it'll
yeah,
be
it's
interesting to see what
yeah.
he's going to play.
I don't even care, man. It's just Matheny and the Walt Disney Concert Hall. That it's just going to be
He's
an amazing event.
Matheny
Yeah,
is 1 year younger than me. Think
is
about
that
it.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I got to tell you, some great players. Anyhow, it's another
yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't say I could join you, but I'd love to be there.
Yeah.
Anyhow, thank you all, and
Thank you, Jack and John.
Thank you
we'll
guys very
see you
much.
guys soon. Just hang on when we hit the click button here. And for people who are listening, we talk photo at gmail.com. Questions, comments, suggestions, and we've got some more people coming in the future. And please subscribe and do all that stuff. So we'll talk to you later. Thank you all.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.